welcome to my channel. My name is Sharon, and this is a channel that is dedicated to all things related to narcissism. I make videos every Monday, Wednesday, and Friday on all types of topics related to narcissism, so if you haven't already, please take a moment to subscribe to the channel so you don't miss any videos. I would really appreciate it if you gave the video a thumbs up. It's a free way you can help me out, and definitely don't forget to leave a comment because I like to read what you have to say. Several years ago, I went to see a movie with another mother and our kids. So it was her, she has 4 kids, I have 2. So it was the six kids and us 2 ladies, and we go to see, I believe the movie was called Sing. I should have looked that up before I started making this video. It was a movie, and it was an animated movie, and it had these like animal creatures singing against each other, kind of like American Idol. I probably just butchered that totally, but it was something like that, and I think it was called Sing. So we're at this theater, and actually, you know what? I'm going to interrupt myself because before I tell you what happened at the theater, I want to just say I am not a movie or TV person at all. I do watch TV and I do watch movies, but that's because of the people I live with. And it's not that I don't enjoy it when I watch it. Like my kids like Cobra Kai, and I like Cobra Kai too. In fact, everybody in the house likes Cobra Kai, but Joe, ironically, really likes to unwind at night right before bed by watching either Netflix or YouTube. So that is where you will find Sharon and Joe most nights in bed watching YouTube or Netflix. But it actually works out great for Joe because I don't really care what we watch. So he can choose and I could just snuggle up, and it works out for both of us. But, back to the movie theater. So just with that said, so we're at the movie theater and everyone's laughing hysterically at this movie. Now, except for me, I did not find it funny. So I'm looking at the theater and they're laughing all around me, and I'm like, what the heck? So I'm thinking, how stupid are they? How can you possibly think that's funny? This is a horrible movie. This is what I'm thinking. But what I was doing was laughing too. Whenever they would laugh, so would I. And while I'm thinking about this right now, while I'm making this video, this thought just came to me. I wonder what year that was, because I wouldn't do that today. At that time, I was laughing because I felt like I needed to fit in. That was something, I didn't like feeling different. I felt like this wasn't good, so it was better for me to fake being something else than be who I really am. Not that I'd be a sour person or anything, but I wouldn't just fake my way through that. But life is so different now, because that movie, that must have been my journey with codependence, began in April of 2016. That is when, I know this sounds weird. I've made other videos about it. If you want to hear more about it, I'm happy to talk more about it. I had a conversion in my bathroom. It was April 21st, 2016, where literally I was codependent 1 minute, and then the series of events happened within several minutes of each other, and my life transformed. And I didn't know it at the time though, but I knew something had happened because it sent me on a long process. That was the very beginning to get to where I am today, free of the narcissist, way back then in April of 2016. But I stopped being codependent. But when I was still learning, so I'm wondering if that movie was 2015, maybe it was even as late as 2017, because even though my codependence was, it was lifted from me, but I still had to learn to be my own person, because that's really the secret to recovery when you're with a narcissist. You need to work on yourself. It isn't so much the narcissist, because the narcissist is who the narcissist is. Like my dog is who my dog is, When you are with a narcissist, you are the one that has to change, but you give yourself this new life. Because even though Joe and I don't have a perfect life, and we're merging families together, and our finances are tough, and he literally just got a divorce. I'm not even divorced yet. And you know what I mean? It's like all these things are going on, but it's still the freedom, the freedom being away from the narcissist. Because when you're with the narcissist, you're never yourself, So I stopped being codependent towards my husband. So, I didn't have the same reaction to him. I didn't forgive him easily. I was mad at him. I showed that I was mad at him. These things, I kicked him out of the bedroom and he moved down to the basement. So all these things happened because I was no longer codependent, but I still had to learn to be back into life, into humanity. I know this might sound like a weird parallel, but I've heard it said before that when you're in prison, now I've never been in prison, but when you're in prison and you come out, that it's very difficult to to remember what real life is like. For them, it's like going to a grocery store, being overwhelmed by the number of whatever you want to buy is there. It's like, you know what I mean? It's a whole world inside the grocery store that they don't have just commissary. They can choose, when they want to take a shower or things like that, and it affects them. And I can understand that, because I think that's almost like us. We come out of codependence and we move back into life. Because I thought, I didn't consciously think this, but, it's almost like for me, my life began with the narcissist, because I forget I was a person before that. And maybe that just sounds weird. Maybe it's because I was married for almost 20 years, but I feel that way. And it just, I don't know. We're the ones that need to change. We need to be people that don't put up with people abusing them. Joe said that to me one time. He's like, so why did you let yourself be abused in a marriage? And he said it like, I know he said it like that to really jar me, and it worked. But that's really what it comes down to. Here we are, we're being abused, and sometimes we don't even know it. One of the issues I had with my ex, and this was part of my transformation, why I'm wondering in that movie, when we were watching that movie, because I was nervous around that other mother, because I felt insecure at that point. I was about to begin my journey, or I had just begun my journey, because I didn't trust myself around other people because of my ex. He used to tell me all the time, you hear narcissists keep you away from your friends and family. If my ex heard that, he would say, that's ridiculous. I never did that, never once. She just didn't have any friends, is probably what he would say. What really happened was that I did it myself because of things he said. He would tell me all the time that people don't like me. And it was like for stupid everyday things. Like I would go down to the mailbox, get the mail, right? I'd come back up and he'd say, oh, by the way, I'm down at the mailbox. I waved to my neighbor. Like, that's it. Just, hey, okay, see you later, whatever. And I'm walking back up the driveway. Oh my gosh, I saw you were talking to so-and-so. Well, you should have seen the look she gave you when you turned your back and walked back up the driveway. I just wanted to let you know, I don't want you to be too nice to her when that's the way that she treats you. How dare she? Something like that. Then the next time I see her, and I'm believing this because this is the difficult thing with narcissism for me. This was my husband. How could I not trust him? Because I think people on the outside think, well, how could you trust somebody like that? Because I didn't know, so here's my husband telling me that the neighbor doesn't like me. So the next time I see her, I'm not going to be so friendly. And then I look like a jerk, but it's based on something somebody else told me that wasn't true, but I believed. My God. And this happens all the time. So I'd be at like a preschool like parent function or whatever, and I would just be chatting briefly to another parent. And then he would tell me the same thing later. Oh God, so it looks like you were talking to so-and-so. Yeah, it was nice. Her son did this or that or whatever. I saw them at the grocery store, whatever it was, whatever I said to him. Well, I just want you to know that I saw that look that she gave you, and I think she was talking to you about another mother, because then they both started looking at you. You know what I mean? And I'm believing this. That's the thing. It's like today, it's so absurd to me because I know who my ex is. But at the time, I'm thinking, well, this is my husband. So I isolated myself completely. There was a time period where I did not have any friends. Like, that's how bad it got. So for me to get where I am today, it was like a 6-year journey, but it began with codependence. So that's like a little side shot there. But if you are suffering with codependence, remember, dealing with that first is the beginning of everything, because then you just think differently because you're a different person at that point. Today I feel free. I feel free in my own skin. I feel, even though, like I said, Joe and I have problems, this heaviness has been lifted. I feel comfortable in my own skin for the first time in a long, long time. So that does come back. So I wouldn't do what I did then, but I think narcissists are like that all the time. That's how I picture a narcissist. Paris is funny, my daughter, she calls them husks. And for some reason, that is so funny to me. But you know what she means? That they're empty. There's like a shell there. There's nothing inside. Because what makes you human? It's your empathy. It's your kindness. It's your love. It's the way that you feel about other people. I am assuming that this is just like a maternal thing. So you ladies, tell me if this happens to you, because this is something I've noticed in my life since I was I don't even know when. I guess it must have been since I had my kids, now that I think about it. And my oldest, I have a 19 and 16-year-old, so it was a while ago, but I still, if I feel a weight on my chest, like a certain weight, I am flooded with happiness. Like there's something there. And I used to have this rabbit, and he weighed about 6.5 pounds. So he was like a newborn baby size. And he wasn't fat. We called him, he was like hefty. He was chunky. He was solid. That's what it was. He was solid. But he was, oh, you guys, he was like a baby. So you'd hold him against your chest, and I'd feel that weight, and it felt like so good. A narcissist can never feel that. For them, everything's a learned behavior. Just like I'm at that movie acting like an idiot, right? Like laughing when I didn't think it was funny because I was insecure. But I knew, all right, everybody else, I'm not even so much consciously thinking this, but this is what it was. So everybody else is laughing. I must laugh too. I have to fit in. And I think a narcissist feels that pressure too, even when they're young, before they can even understand it. It's learned behavior. They do what they're expected to do, what they've learned to do. I can't remember if Joe just said this to me or if he mentioned this on the channel, but he said that he thinks that narcissists will do things like they'll understand, they'll know that if it's somebody's birthday, oh, now I need to put on my happy face, or this is a happy day, people are happy, that means this, and then they imitate that. Or maybe it's Christmas, and oh, it's a holiday. Oh, it's my holiday time, my holiday face. I'm supposed to be excited. This takes a long time. This is a couple of weeks. I'm supposed to be happy right now. That's what they do, and I can see that. That makes sense, because they don't have what it takes to be. They're not. They're. And I know it sounds weird, but they're not fully human. Joe calls them beings, things, entities, or creatures. To call them a person just doesn't seem right, because they're missing it's like Paris said, they have that husk, what's inside, the light behind your eyes. Like, has anybody ever seen like a dead animal, or person? There's that dullness that's not there anymore because they're not alive. A narcissist has that dullness, and I think they go through life and they miss everything because they don't have what it takes to connect to another human. Now, I don't ever feel bad for narcissists at all, but when you really think about this person who puts themselves to be so powerful, above everybody else, they're actually very pathetically weak. They can't even love their own children. Joe and I both had really bad weeks this week. Oh, guys. Some of you may know that my ex, and some of you were so sweet, by the way, thank you, sending me emails and notes of encouragement, even offering to buy the train sets. I said in the last video that my ex, who I've been no contact with since December, has really been ramping up trying to get a hold of me. He wants me to break no contact. So he sent me this email, and then he sent it to my kids, telling me that when I escaped him in December, that was when I went no contact with him, I left things at our house. I couldn't take everything with me. I got my kids and my animals and what I could out, and we basically ran for our life. So we're in another state now, and it's worked out fantastic. My kids' PTSD is better. It's just fantastic. But I left stuff at the house, some stuff that I didn't want to leave. But it really was, at the point, it was like a house fire. The house is on fire. I can only take what I can take. So I couldn't take everything else, everything that I wanted. There was these trains. My son loved Thomas, the trains, Thomas Tank Engine, whatever it was called. I can't remember now. When he was a little boy, and we used to play, and oh God, we love those trains. So I wish I had those trains. And those are one of the things he's saying he's going to get rid of. He's going to throw them away because he doesn't need them. And then he sent it to my kids, and that upset the kids. It was horrible. So then I got another email from him, you guys, and this is just the cluelessness of this. He said it was something along the lines of, Sharon, I sent an email. He attached the email I sent to the kids, which he knew I would have already read. And he said, I sent a similar email, see below, to the kids. If you don't contact me by this weekend, I'm going to throw away. And he had this whole list of things he's going to throw away. And then he said something. He was like, I don't understand why you won't communicate with me, why you refuse to answer my emails. It's, I'm trying to be civil. This has nothing to do with our legal battle. When you won't even respond to me when I say this or that or whatever. And so I was so upset and so tempted to contact him because I wanted to bitch him out. And then Joe had this horrible week. It was just, see, I don't want to say what happened with Joe because it's not my business to. I haven't asked his permission. So I don't know if he's going to mention it on the channel or not this weekend or for Monday's video. But he also has had a very difficult week. So it's been a pretty horrible week. But yesterday I was at work and, my daughter and I are very close. I'm close to my son too. But my daughter and I, we have a real closeness. So Paris and I, many of you have met Paris. She's been on the channel several times. But she texts me when I'm at work, so we text back and forth. And yesterday she texted me and she said, hey, check out 360. Just check it out right now. So for those of you that don't know, 360 is like a family app. I love 360. I know it sounds weird if you don't know what it is. It sounds a little creepy stalkerish, but it's where everybody in the family you're in this little hub and everybody knows where everybody else is. So if you have your phone with you, everyone will know where you are. But we keep track of each other that way, but it really isn't in a creepy way. Everyone but Joe. Joe is not on 360, but I am and the kids are. So I always know where the kids are anyways. So my daughter tells me, check out 360. So I look and I see she was coming towards, and both my kids, my son and daughter, were coming towards where I was working. And I was so happy. I felt so loved because my daughter knew I was having a rough week. And I'm watching the little bubbles and, they're coming closer and closer. And then my daughter comes in and she had this Dunkin' Donuts. She got she got a large frozen mocha coffee with whip on top for me, and it was so sweet. And I was as she was coming closer, I could see her moving closer, and I said, I'm gonna cry when you get here. And she's like, oh, maybe I should go home and you can have it after work. But I was like, no, please come in. So I felt so loved in that moment. It made me, I was happy. I felt happy. I felt love. It was my child being so sweet and kind, both my children. And my ex never has that. He'll never have that. He'll never have that feeling. He doesn't care. So you think about the type of person that can be that way. So can you call them a person? I think they just learn, okay, I'm a dad now. I'm a mom now. So I need to, play goo goo gaga games with the baby and do this or that, but they don't ever have the feelings. I've mentioned before on the channel what Chris Watts had said. For those of you that don't know, Chris Watts he's a man who murdered his entire family. He lived in Colorado. This happened in August of 2012. He killed his pregnant wife, and then he killed his 4 and 3-year-old and buried them in these huge vats of oil. It was disgusting. So, you get somebody like that, and he said that, nobody knew how he was like this until he killed everybody. And he said that, he didn't worry about his kids. If they got lost at a store or something like that, he wouldn't panic. And then the way he said this, well, I'd try to find them, but he didn't really care. Can you imagine? Have any of you parents lost your child? This has happened to me. I mentioned on the channel, it was horrific. I had just moved to New Hampshire and my kids were in the basement, but I thought they were outside. I told them they could play outside. There's all those woods back there. I didn't know they had come back in the house and they were in the basement. So I'm outside and I'm yelling for my kids. They're not replying. And I'm going deeper and deeper into the woods. And this is what I'm thinking. I'm picturing this as I'm walking into the woods. Oh my God, I just moved here and my kids have been kidnapped. And I'm picturing some man holding them hostage, deep in the woods. It was horrific. It was so bad. I was panicked. I was running through the woods, screaming my kids' names. I come back in the house. I was reaching for the phone to call 911 and my kids come upstairs in the basement. The panic. But compare that, and I think that's fairly typical. Compare that to Chris Watts. Well, I'd try to find them. That's how they are. So for anybody wondering what's underneath that mask, I think that's what it is. They can't relate to us. They can't. They're empty inside. Paris calls them husks. They just kind of float around, and we end up thinking because we end up codependent for whatever psychological reason that happened. So we put up with a lot of the bad behavior that they exhibit daily into our home, especially as time goes on. Oh my God, the truth is that what you're dealing with underneath that mask is like nothing. It's like an infant human, an infant adult, if that makes sense, because an infant is cute and cuddly. A narcissist is anything but cute and cuddly. So I think that that is what is behind the mask of narcissism. They're fake to everybody. They pretend to fit in. They pretend to live a life that isn't real, and we get sucked into it, and we pay dearly once we are codependent. We're like their slave or something. So the first step is breaking codependence and understanding who the narcissist is. And the narcissist is not a big and strong person. A narcissist is a weak, pathetic, spineless coward. Thank you so much for watching. I really appreciate it. Come stay tuned for Monday's. I almost said Monday's exhibit. I can't even speak right now. It's so early in the morning. I struggled getting this video out today, guys. I almost didn't do one. It is, stay tuned for Monday's episode of the Sharon and Joe Show. I'm not sure what we're going to talk about, but it will be, actually, it's up to Joe this week, because now that I think about that, it's all on him this week. We had decided we have different ideas of how the show should go. So last week it was 100% what I wanted to do. So this week it's 100% what he wants to do. So, and then we're going to judge. So keep me in your thoughts. All right, guys, have a great day, a great weekend, and I'll see you on Monday with Joe. God bless.